So thanks for meeting again. This is part two of our meeting with Mesa colleagues on PeopleSoft Campus Solutions and looking at their portal. So several people have a lot of questions. And so Guillermo, if I may, what I'd like to do is kick off one of the questions because Yesenia cannot come today, but she did ask us general question.
Sure.
Is that program accessible through different mobile devices? It does, right? When you access it with your phone?
Correct. And it's I forget what they call it, but there's a specific word where it adjusts to your phone.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I could go onto my phone right now and I could go on there. It's a little bit different to navigate, but it's very accessible.
Okay.
And actually you should, I mean, it's interesting because you do have PeopleSoft and Campus Solutions. Can't you access it from your house?
You mean phone, not house?
Yeah, your home. Your home.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. But you know,
but
it's different for every for district. Because for a while, when it was first implemented, people were complaining about it. That had to be worked on later.
yes, but it was something that. But can you access PeopleSoft from home
Yeah.
on your phone?
I can, but it's not. I don't think it's responsive like what you're saying.
Yes,
like I think like if I zoom in too much, I might lose the complete picture. It might not adjust to my screen.
Yeah, and Victor Devar, I mean, that would be a good question for him, but I do find it responsive. It's just that sometimes you have to dig around to find the things you're looking for. Since I don't use the phone all the time.
And I know Strawberry Princess has a list of questions.
How do you know that?
Huh?
You just knew I had a list of questions?
No, because I was worried about how quiet you and Cynthia were yesterday. And so I'm all, oh, I hope, yeah.
We were trying to be on our best behavior too.
Questions. And
Oh
let me know if there's any a recap that you wanted some more clarification on, or what the needs of your student, to see if I could find something in our campus solutions that works for you. And Jose, since you weren't here, let me know if you want me to kind of expand out to show you what they're talking about, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right, Karina.
What's the most common system errors that you see?
That's a great question, because the systems errors is going to be dependent on your IT. Okay, so your IT. So the errors that we have would be, for example, we have these things where I guess I could show you too. It's called effective dates. So if somebody puts a class in and it's supposed to show up on a certain day and it's not there, so if they don't add an attribute to it or an effective date, things could not show up. But we have business analysts that responds to those things, and they could fix them right away.
And so how do you report the errors?
We just email our business analysts. Usually they come to me and I'll send an email, and I said, this is not showing up correctly. Can you check into it? And they'll check into it. And they come back to a response pretty quickly.
Yeah. And how many, okay, so this seems like it's veering off, but it's not. It has to do with maintenance. How many BSAs do you have assigned to this?
Oh, I may not know the exact answer, but we have quite a bit. There's one for financial aid. There's one for...
Oh, no, just for this who handles this particular tool.
You mean the business analyst?
Yeah. Is there one business dedicated to this, or is it all of them? Like, how much?
I think there's if I'm not mistaken, I think we have 7 business analysts. And
they all can help with this tool?
Different parts of it. So like for the campus solution, which is like, let's call it the advising, we usually have just Amy Myers, and she's just one, and Victor, the dean. If somebody had, let's say, Karina, you say, I can't get into adding prerequisites, or I can't put in a new educational plan for a student, then we ask the question to the security person. Then if somebody asks a question regarding data, then we have a different, like generating data. How can we pull it? We have a different analyst, David Spence, who would get that. So everybody has a role, but primarily for counselors, we have one business analyst that we work with.
And is that for in the district, or is that just for Mesa?
In the district.
In the district, wow.
So remember, Karina, even though he said 7, that's Mesa, Miramar City, San Diego College,
Yeah.
continuing education.
And it's financial aid and all that. So I'm just wondering, it sounds like the maintenance is pretty low on the tool.
I think they're working pretty hard what they're doing.
They are working pretty hard. Okay,
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out what we're doing wrong right now. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think the challenge is what I've heard is that since you have a lot of bolt-ons or additional applications, every time, so in Campus Solution, my understanding is every time they have a 2.0 to a 3.0 to a 4.0, and those are my languages, they call it something different, or a systems upgrade, they have to make sure, they have to pull off all the bolt-ons.
Yes.
Do the upgrade and put them back to make sure everything's still working.
So they don't, on our side, they don't do the upgrades as often, and that must be for that reason. I guess in my mind, I'm just thinking like we have an Audi, you know, but we only take it to the mechanic once every 10 years. And now it's like, it's a great tool. It looks pretty, but we're not taking care of it. So if we can find something that I guess is less maintenance.
I don't think there's going to be less maintenance. I think there's going to be a commitment, and it is a challenge all the time because there's priorities, right?
Yeah.
And so remember, we had the business analyst, but we also have our IT, which is different than the business analyst. The IT are the people who are going to help you reprogram. So like with your Student 360, it's the IT people who are going to implement our Student 360 and put in our planner on top of it. Okay.
Yeah.
The business analysts are the ones maintaining and making things work well. So when we like you asked, you know, once you start thinking about the errors, I think Eileen, you may have been here, but a lot of authentication of students, you know, sometimes some things go wrong, and so we have
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and so sometimes there's a little bit of a hiccup until that gets corrected, right?
Do you have errors like on a weekly basis that you notice, or daily basis?
No, it's usually no. On our part, for counselors, no. And I'm answering the question through a counselor perspective.
That's what I want to hear, because the answers are different on his side.
Yes. So for counselors, sometimes the counselors would say, "Is it running really slow for you?" But that's system wide, right? It's not just Campus Solutions. Remember, we use it for employee, they use it in the business office. I mean, they use one. Remember, the difference in our district, we have one system for everything. Okay.
You don't have ISIS anymore, right? Because now it's PeopleSoft.
ISIS is gone. So remember, ISIS is an in-house tool, but it still costs millions to maintain, right? I mean, Eileen could probably tell you how much it costs, but
I still remember SQH8, SQH9, SQH8.
I remember that too.
F8 is log out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never got that.
You know, Karina, that has anything to do with a portal, it's going to be like a relationship. It needs a lot of attention, care, and your time. So I think nothing is going to require no maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not looking for anything that has no maintenance. It's just, it seems like the amount of maintenance for my ed plan is it's not achievable for our school to maintain.
Correct.
The integrity of the
solution. It's not.
So what I heard from your part, it's really the missing part is the evaluation of students' transcripts doesn't happen until the graduation. So a student who's never graduating, their transcripts would never show up into the system.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's more like an evaluation.
Correct, and that's not a. And there's things. So the questions I think, if I were you, I'll be asking, what is the student's perspective, or what we call here the student's journey, that allows them to access information that is a useful tool to them, right? And to me, that's the first picture that I want to use, right? Is this usable to our students?
I was going to get there, but it was going to be like a linear process to get
Okay.
to. That was the most important part. That was the middle.
Yes, the middle. Yeah, but yeah, there is going to be growing pains. We built all. It takes. If you haven't done so already, does your educational plans live in Campus Solutions or in something else?
It lives in something else. It lives in, what is it called?
DegreeWorks.
DegreeWorks. Yeah.
DegreeWorks.
Do you like DegreeWorks?
The ed plan, it has that stackable semester stuff, so it is visually appealing for students.
I like it, yeah.
So, I mean, that's great. One of the things I wanted to point out, because it's a separate entity, one of the students, when you're talking about the student view, right? When students log in, it is a captured snapshot, right? And in order for a student to have the most up-to-date information, they have to refresh and update. If they don't do that, it is completely stagnant, right? So is that something from the students' end that they have to do in Campus Solution to hit like a refresh button? Or is it live always whenever they log in? So many students, if you look at the DegreeWorks or the My Ed plan, it may say, January 2025 because it hasn't been refreshed.
Oh,
right?
This is live all the time.
So there is no refreshing needed. It is just adapting on its own. And so that is, I think, a frustration from the students because until they learn that, they don't know. And so they may be looking at old information unless someone else updated it for a different reason.
Yeah, let me give you an example. So let's say a student comes in, let's say they're on the phone or on Zoom. Oh, let me update your ed plan. As soon as I do it, they could see it. Or they enroll into a class and they should be able to now see it as in progress in their course or their unofficial transcript. So it is immediate.
Because right now, our students, if they add, let's say, Psych 100 or 101, unless they update it, they don't even see it in their plan. Their ed plan. So it has to be refreshed, right, Karina? In order to pull over the new information.
Yeah. Do you might like this one? Do students seem to understand it for the majority of the part? Like, can they, when they walk away, do they come back asking questions about it, or are they pretty satisfied?
I think that's more on us. Remember, the challenge of a community college student is that the goals, it's not like a university. So if I was at San Diego State and I wanted to do psychology, the degree doesn't change, right? All the requirements are exactly the same and your degree audit doesn't change. But when our students want to do psychology, it's going to be psychology as a transfer pathway, an in-house pathway. So the information is not always accurate. So they always need a counselor so we can update the ed plan to make sure they have the plan that matches their transfer or non-transfer goal, right? But once that's certain, then the information is accurate. And I think that the part that it's not about Campus Solutions, we as counselors could do a better job directing the students where they find those things. And let me share the screen so I can show Jose what I'm talking about. Okay. So this is our first login to Campus Solutions. And if I go, I'm going to go through a student dashboard. Everybody can see the screen, correct? Okay. If I go to the student dashboard, this is what the student sees. But if we don't tell them where to find the information, they're not going to use it. So I always think that we could always do a better job through our ambassadors, our peer navigators. And you can see here, if this is me, it tells me when my registration date is. Once I enroll in classes, if I were to enroll in classes, my classes would appear here. Okay, so the students would be able to see their classes right when they enroll. They'll be able to see their grades. They'll be able to see what kind of financial aid offer they have. if you're, in this case, to-do list is telling the student, there's only two people who have access to the to-do list. It's financial aid or EOPS, okay? My finances tells the student if they owe any, if they owe anything to the college. We have a calendar. So for example, if I open up for summer, it tells they can see all the dates. It talks about graduation, what they have to do, deadlines for the ADTs. It also tells you the students what their path is. So if they go in here and they see their major biology for transfer, they could go in there and they could change it, okay? Or come to a counselor to change it. And the two most important things that we have to direct our student is we put your courses in the planner. And so Jose, when counselors put courses in the planner, and when a student clicks it, they should be able to see the recommended classes per semester. And for EOPS, they have a different screen. So if you wanted to use these components, Victor, because EOPS has more reporting mandates, so they also had a different screen and they have additional comments where they have to do their notes. And the same thing for veterans. The veterans counselors have a different, not the counselors, but the certified officials have a different screen as well. And the other thing is the educational plan lives here. So if the educational plan is correct, the students should be able to pull up their plan and select the classes on their own. So it is pretty live. The only thing that has to be refreshed is when I put courses in the planner, that's when I tell the student to refresh again. So if I already did it, they would have to refresh to see the update. Okay. If they're currently working with me in there. So does that answer your question? So remember those ed plans. So if you change from degree works to this, it does take a long time. It took us a long time in ERP implementing this because we built all the plans. So that should be a good follow-up question. We actually built plans 10 years back, but that took a lot of time and a lot of energy. So you have to have working with the evaluators, working with people who are inputting all the educational plans into the system, right? So that's the part that's a big task.
Was that
You
a
don't have to be
manual
so
process?
polite. Yeah, you could just like talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a manual process or was that a just electronic process that the IT people had to do on the back end?
It was a manual process. Okay, so remember all your degrees. So like if I go in here, let me grab a student from just in case you're wondering, we have 26 students waiting to see a counselor.
Oh no. Thank you for meeting with us.
That's a low number for Mesa, right?
Yes, that is. You remember Cynthia, right?
I used to come in the summer and I'm like, there's 100 people on that list. I'm like, okay, let's get ready.
So yes, it was 100 earlier last week.
Last week.
So let me show you how they would have to build them, okay? So what the evaluators did when we run, and Jose, you're seeing this ed plan for the first time. So they would have to build see this where it says RG61? So somebody had to come in here and build these messages, right? So somebody had to build this idea about how to pull in all the data for GPA. Somebody had to, look at units in progress, how this would appear. So like units required, this is 18 taken, right? Somebody had, see this line, GPA line 10. Somebody had to build the system to say what the minimum requirement is for the degree, the 2.0. Somebody had to build it in this line 20. There was 60 units. So it does take, it's nothing that an IT person could just press. It's something that you have to build and how you as counselors, so we had counselors on this team we would push back from the evaluators because they would do it totally different because we would want to make sure that it had a student counselor perspective that's usable, right? So the evaluators would see it totally different. Oh, we don't need all this stuff. So, but here's, you would have to build the degrees and you would have to maintain each year. And same thing, I think, in degree works, you would have, if there was any changes in administration and justice, you would have to update it. And our big change is we now have to move all our degree plans to CalGETC. So that's our rush. So the thing is, once the spring semester is over, we have to go and build all the CalGETC plans, right? To make sure that it's in there. So the evaluators are going to have to work. Hopefully they could get it done in early summer so we could use them by the time our students come in summer and fall.
And Guillermo, so some of our counselors have built term-by-term plans for associate degrees and certificates. With what classes to take, we have our catalog. So this information's out there. So is it that the counselors like put it together?
Our evaluators put it together.
Your evaluators put it together, okay.
Yes,
And
I wouldn't recommend, and I think Eileen will support this. It shouldn't be evaluated. It shouldn't be counseling faculty who maintain and build these things. It should be someone else like evaluators, because they're the ones who are going to look at the petitions for the degrees, right? And they know exactly, so they're going to pull everything together. You're going to be there more to make sure that you have the view that's usable to our students.
Gotcha. And so when they do these updates every year, is it do you need so many counselors to review it?
No counselors are involved in the updates.
Okay, no counselors are involved.
Remember, I think you said you had 4 evaluators?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. So 4 evaluators would have to, and we have a lot of plans, right? So I don't know how many GE patterns you have at Miracosta, but we have a lot, and so we had to build a lot of them. And the good thing about CalGETC, we're gonna get rid of the CSU one and the other one.
But you can go back. The student keeps their catalog rights, right?
Correct.
So the plans just exist. The prior GE plans exist in the system. It's just adding the new one.
Yes, and let me give you an example. This might be an old. We maintain spreadsheets.
What?
Oops.
Guillermo, you've changed.
I've changed.
Yeah, you're intimidating me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So we maintain spreadsheets. And so like, see on the top here, these are, it tells you how far things go back. So this is what we worked from. So if a student wanted to earn this old accounting degree and they, so it tells you when it started and when it ended, like right here on under Administration of Justice, Police Tech, that program ended in 21. So that student could know, a new student couldn't start it. So that's how we had to build them. So you have to build these plans when they start and when they end. And I think the hardest part, if your faculty, your instructional faculty are always changing and updating, is a lot more work. But if they keep the same plans, it's less work. So it's the initial cost of time to build all these plans, right? So you can see here we have, this is Miramar, this is just one college. So we would have to have built all these plans going out back to, we built them in Campus Solution all the way back to 2007. Okay.
Do you guys remember using that spreadsheet?
I do. I had a little bit of a shake, I'll be honest with you. I was like all those forms that we had to remember.
No, that was super helpful. I remember that. Yeah, because otherwise in Maricosta, I'm guessing. I mean, no, I'm not guessing. I'm looking and searching, researching.
Coming from the chair herself.
I have a question. So Eileen, you mentioned that the School of Continuing Ed is also using this, right? So they're building ed plans as well
Guillermo
for
would know.
non-credit coursework?
Yeah,
So continuing ed just started. They started right when I left.
No,
In
continuing
terms of
ed.
using the portal.
So continuing ed works in both. So Campus Solutions is in both. Continuing ed also have educational plans, but they're a little different because they're certificates. And so their certificates sometimes could be just one class. So their challenge was that in continuing ed, they didn't have a browse catalog that was active. Okay, so it was more difficult to build those plans, and they were awarding plans all the time because in CE you could earn a certificate with the completion of one class. But yes, yeah, so like if I was to put, if I was to do a search, and so do you guys have CE at Miracosta?
That's
We
called
have continuing ed.
So when we look here, it's built for undergraduate. And if I was a kick, now you see my birthday, you send me gifts on my birthday, that'd be appreciated.
You know, Miracosta is all about hard work.
Eileen, and so right here you can see that in Campus Solutions, we also have a high school, okay? So if a student has done all three of these, it will all show up for the student, okay? And so we have the continuing ed. So sometimes if a student is living in continuing ed in the high school and the undergraduate, you have to toggle back and forth, but it's all in there. So if I were to go to continuing ed, and if I were to find a student under continuing ed, then we could actually look up classes under CE as well.
But that's great. Like you said, if they're you know, starting to use it, so that means it is adaptable. Our continuing ed program is slightly different, is that they don't use a traditional semester, and they use 8-week blocks. But the current system also is not adapted for that, so we just make it work. Ironically, we do include our transfer credit on our degree works and our ed plan, so it is a positive because we are a smaller program, so that there is completion. But to your point, we are now adding in more and more certificates. We currently cannot run certificates through a degree audit in non-credit because it's not built, because it's so much additional work for them to do it. And then the way that the application career that they're under is not in our system.
Yeah.
So there's gaps in how we serve our students. So you couldn't do a degree audit on a student who's doing a certificate program in non-credit because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, some of the challenges, but all this was built to include both.
And I think that if we have a starting point, it may be incentivized for them to already create it, because there's benefit to the institution when students are achieving those certificates. And from the non-credit perspective, I want students to be able to do a what if for all of the varying certificates that exist.
And they can. And let me see if I could actually, if I was a student, I'm going to go to the what if. Oops. Where am I at? Okay. And so you're also talking about credit for prior learning. So credit for prior learning, right? So we still, in our district, it's still considered credit by examination. Okay. And so they still have to petition for that. But see, oh no, I can't switch it. Let me see if I could change it from the counselor side. But the students can do the what is for continuing education as well. So I think it's, this is something that we didn't open up a package and it worked. It was something that did take a lot of time to implement. Eileen got rid of me for a bunch of years, it seemed. How many years was it?
How many years was that? I was telling Tim about that. Was that 5 or 6 years?
It was a long time, because what happened is that there was always something that just went wrong, because really to changing, ISIS worked pretty well for us. So it was really difficult for the district, who had a pretty good built system that worked for us, to change, and then we didn't want to give up a lot of things. So, and the consultants weren't very happy with us because we always wanted to change something.
Yeah.
So let's see, let's try it. So here I am, continuing education, degree type, campus. Let me see. Oh, I can't. Okay, let's see here. Let's do auto, body, and paint. And there it is. Right.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that. Like I said, I think that again, it's wonderful to have it for the counselor, but it's better for the student to be able to whatever they want, right? And see the potential that exists for our students. And I think that that's the part that's limiting, that they only see, what's in the printed schedule or the schedule online, but the opportunities I think are limited because they don't have access electronically to kind of toggle through all the different opportunities.
Mhm.
And that's going back to an earlier question. How do the students don't know they have this option, right? And so even we have it, and so we could do a better job of directing them either in our initial workshops or something like that. And do you have a high school completion program?
We do.
And so here's the high school option 1, right?
Yeah.
So there's also here with us, we're moving towards getting evaluators for the high school to evaluate the high school
Really?
transcripts.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's great. Thank you.
you're welcome. Eileen was costing us too much money, and when we fired her from Mesa College, we were able to now afford lots of evaluators for.
Lots of evaluators.
Okay.
I don't know. Do you all use Canvas?
Yes.
That's in the dashboard as well for the students as well, right?
Let's look.
Okay.
Let's look here. I'm going to reduce it to reset to the screen. So you can see here on quick links, a couple great tools for students. They can log in here through Canvas. They can log in here through Handshake, but you could really add anything that you want on your quick links.
So Handshake is their Jane. So in Region 10, Miracosta is the only institution who has not switched to Handshake. Okay.
No, but Canvas, so they should be able to log in through Canvas through here, right? And so could even vote, register to vote.
Question. So when you do, and you might have showed us yesterday, so forgive me. I didn't see the recording. If you do an education plan and say some of the classes are missing that you put in the education plan, does it highlight that? Like, hey, you almost got everything, but you're missing X, Y, and Z?
No, it's not going. So what will happen let me see if I could give you an example. Let me grab another student.
And ours doesn't do that either. I'm just curious if yours has that feature.
No, what happened?
Now, why would it be missing?
Well, say the student did, well, ours used to do it, I think. But say I'm a counselor and I'm building out a plan and I'm doing a 2-semester plan. Like it'll show the student that there's still classes missing which haven't been mapped out.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Or I could see it as a counselor. I could see if I made a mistake and I'm missing something in an area.
Mhm.
So kind of this is for Jose, just a kind of quick recap. When we're creating the student planner down here, we create maybe 2 semesters just to get a student started here. So the counselor has manually inputted these grades here, these courses. But when the student runs their educational plan, and we call it plan by requirements. So if I got your question right, if a counselor didn't write this in here, right? Mm-hmm. We turned off the part where we have planned. Okay, there used to be a little blue light, a little blue star, that if a counselor planned it, it would show up in these boxes. But we decided to turn it off because once you did that, it also closed up all the other windows. So we made a choice. So that's why when you're implementing this, a counselor has to go in there and you have to decide as a college how you want to use it and what's the best view for the students, okay?
Oh, okay. So the students didn't know they had the other options within that GE area once
So
you
here,
planned it.
yeah, so we look here. If a student were to go through here, it doesn't show that I planned it, that I wrote it in the box. If it did, it would have had, so we turned off the function, it would have had a blue star here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see this where it says planned up here on top?
Yeah.
So we actually had that, but we decided to turn it off for our students. But that's a decision that you can make. And I think that's a delivered function. So what you hear is that IT, there's things that are delivered and some things that are not delivered. So anything that's not delivered will require you to kind of do tweaks within the system. Okay? And it kind of works like a bolt-on. Every time you have an upgrade to the whole campus solution, you have your tweaks that you did has to be, you have to recalibrate, let's say, and make sure it still works.
Can you demonstrate just for, well, I guess just for sake, what would be our workaround? Say our evaluators don't put the classes in there, but you showed us something yesterday.
Yes, so let's say the student took 2 classes from Palomar College or Mesa College, right? My recommendation would have been that you would do a manual entry. Remember, these would not appear in the audit, okay? And let's say the
I
student,
see. Okay, so it's planned out, like they took it, but
it's different. Yeah, you don't really plan out courses that they've taken already, but you
yeah,
could use the functionality to say, I'm gonna put down that student took English 101 at Mesa. They took math 150, calculus, and then they took psychology 101. So this is what you have to do because you're the evaluator per se, right? And see how then you would ask them, you could ask them to change this title of unassigned courses to maybe external education, okay? And then you could say, what's the number for psychology at Mia Costa?
Is it Psych 100 or what is it?
I think we changed it.
Oh, yes.
PSYC, one.
You know, it's the same one now that you have because they changed it, right?
Yeah, C1000.
PSYC C1000.
And then there would be English C1000.
I see. Yeah.
And then you'll say complete it, right? And you could even program these things here as a transfer credit, complete it, do not take another class or something. That would be a possible workaround. But I would, as a counselor, I says, hey, how come we don't evaluate our students' transcripts sooner?
I know. We're trying, I think. We don't have the evaluators under our deanery. And they're in a different deanery.
Yeah. If you are in this unassigned courses section, which we might call external credit, the counselors, if I'm understanding this correctly, the counselor is doing an evaluation of that transcript, and that will then appear. Is that?
Yes, once you hit this finalize and copy, it'll publish over to their planner.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't want to copy it because this is a real student here. So this is not live. So if the student here were to log in, right, they wouldn't see it until I finalized and copied it.
Okay,
but yeah,
can I ask you?
But remember but one thing, the hard part is it's great when there's only 3 classes, but if the student did 20 classes, that's something different, right? So then my recommendation would be you write down, the student has completed all their GE classes except physics or physical science. See how that's different? So you could type in here, student has completed all their courses, all their general education courses, remaining courses is communications 103. And this is where you get as a department, how you work together. And so, and that's what we do for our veterans and financial aid appeals and veteran students. We'll say, student went to University of Maryland, have completed all their general education except this course, right? Or if the student only has 1 or 2 classes, students completed the equivalent of our English 101, 205, right? All remaining GE courses are required.
And your financial aid are reading the notes, right?
Right. We given them access, right? So remember, it's all about security. So you want to see who has access, and these notes are viewed by students. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I left this page, so this is kind of goes to Tim's question, and the student clicks on their planner, they would see this, right? They would see the notes. And let's say there's a new category called external education transfer credit or whatever, and whatever notes you wrote down here. So the hard part is, we do get those students that has multiple transcripts. So that takes a little bit more work, but once that work gets done, then all the counselors benefit from it, right?
Could I ask a follow-up question? If somebody does have a transcript or multiple transcripts and the counselor is going through and they're like, yes, I know this equates to our English C1000, our Psych C1000, but there are some courses that they're not sure about. Do you as counselors do some of the ones that you have surety with, and then you go to your evaluators and say, look, we've already done these. We need you to look at these 6 other classes, or does it have to be?
I like to say that with our students, we're reviewing transcripts. We're not evaluating transcripts.
Okay.
Okay, so it's different, and you're not evaluators either. You're giving your best guess, right? And so we would write down, let's say, like I had a student just the other day who took a physics class, and I said, well, I don't know, and I put down evaluation pending, right? Do not take that class until evaluation is complete.
And we do something similar here at Guillermo like that. We'll say, we think, but we don't know until it goes through evaluation. But at your college, well, you're getting a lot of students whose transcripts have not been evaluated then, because it takes 90 days, right?
Yes, all transcripts. We want to meet the needs of our students. So when they come in and they bring unofficial transcripts, we still have to give them a best guess, right?
Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah.
Right, a best guess. And if I see an arts class, I say, well, looks like you completed an arts class in area 3A. Stay away from that area until evaluation, right?
Okay. Yeah, we do the same thing.
Yeah, in California community colleges is easy because we can refer to assist, but it's really the out-of-state transcripts that sometimes could be a challenge. And those, for the experienced counselor, introduction to economics, we should never think that that's macro or micro, right? And so, in Mesa College, we had that funky philosophy 102A and B introduction. And for some schools, that's just 1 semester, right? So there's sometimes things are not equivalent, so you have to watch out for those kinds of things. Yes. So what other questions?
So when they update the catalog, right? So you're all about to go into 25, 26, right? And so when instruction is making the changes on the catalog, is that immediately in the system then and reflected, or is there a overlap in time, or is when you are able to build a plan?
Okay, so remember the errors.
Yes.
So you can see we have built our English C1000 already. And see what it says here, available. Let me make it bigger. So this is not evaluators anymore. This is curriculum instruction.
Right.
So you can see this does not become available until August 1st.
Perfect. Thank you.
And so the English 101 is still here. We don't remove English 101 because we want to make sure that a student who has already completed English 1 is going to still meet that requirement. So the system's able to read English 101 and C1000 as equivalents, and either one would be able to populate them.
Okay.
So that answers that, when it's available. But nothing goes away. So if there was a class that we used to teach 1,000 years ago, we no longer teach, it's still in here.
Wait, Guillermo, so this has all the old catalog info?
Yeah, so I think, let me see, is this still available? So if we click a class and it'll say no longer offered, right? I don't think we teach evaluating children's literature, but if it's a class, it's like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's pick that. And then when I click and I can't find it, it's possible that it's already deactivated and no longer used. Okay. Oh, it's still top. See, it says view class sections. So you could actually view the class sections from here. Oh no, it's no longer taught. See, the last time they taught it was in 1981. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in there. So I don't know. So if you have been using lots of different types of platforms, I could imagine the training for a new counselor. You go here for this, you go there for that, right?
So how long did it all take you to get comfortable with it?
The new counselors right away, right? Because they never lived in they never lived in the ISIS world. So think of a new counselor coming in and getting trained. So if you move to a system like this, you would have to ask yourself, how long does it take a new counselor to train to use it? But more importantly, you already do it. You already have your go-to screens. So like if I'm a counselor and I'm training the counselors, and Eileen could tell you if I did a good job training or not, but I would ask the question, what pages did you used to go to, right? They said, oh, I needed my transcripts. Where's my transcripts? Here's your transcripts. I always look for if the transcripts have arrived. Here it is, right? Where do I put down the classes that I need? Here it is. How do I change the ed plan? Here it is, right? So you just have to have your, I like to say it's like a dashboard of a new car, right? So how long does it get to use? At Mesa, we can't afford new cars like at Miracosta, but how long does it get used? You guys get used to the dashboard of a brand new car, right? So it's the same idea. Your go-to places, and then it's just becoming familiar with it again, right? So it takes a little while practice. Like I still haven't figured, C1000, communications, stats, right? It's going to take a little while for me to get around that mindset.
And Gizmo, what do you wish it did that it doesn't do?
I wish there was a better look for the students. Okay, and I think that there's some things here. Remember, we were saying we're going to use 360, but we're going to use the opportunity to change some of these areas. Okay, like the reasons taken, notes taken. We're going to update our referrals. So I think for the most part, counselors like it. Okay. But there's little tiny things that we found out that would be much more helpful to our students. But for the most part, they're minor at this point, in my opinion.
Could you show us the audit again, the degree audit?
Sure. So we'll run this one. So I land on Adrian here, the student here. I see that this is their plan, biology for transfer. And I know by the code here that it's a UC CSU IGETC plan. This is the catalog year. It's 22-23. And so when I run the plan, so here's the plan that's generated. And this is the part that I wish it was easier to read. Okay? But with a little practice, you break it up into a few parts. The top part is, and you can put whatever language, caution, whatever, make sure everything, consult with the counselor. But we have our GPA that's transfer GPA. And this is using evaluated transcripts if the students has those transcripts evaluated.
Nice.
Okay. Total units, and it's counting evaluated units as well. And that's the advantage, right? So miscount or miscalculated GPA. It has GPA and UC transferable units. In this case, the units match, right? So the students has taken UC and CSU transferable units.
Okay.
It always shows courses in progress. And you can see here, our students have already courses in progress for the spring. They have already registered for the summer, and they have registered for the fall. Okay, so you can see right away those courses. It kind of gives you an overall GPA idea, how much the student needs, how many units in GPA. They have to have at least a 2.0. They have to have 60 transferable units, and it's actually counting transferable units and not just
Great.
units.
Yeah.
Then yes, go ahead.
Does it confuse students with those brackets like RQ 25401, learn line 10? Like, is that for you all, or is that?
For the people who built the code behind, right?
So it's like the reference point. That's why it stays.
So if I could sit there and say, hey, this is wrong. And they'll say that, so the evaluators are the ones that say, can you go to RG 4964? And they know exactly where to find it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And we ask that question as counselors. We don't like this line 10. Get it out.
Right. It's weird.
You'll like it in the future, because when you're going to say, for biology for transfer, can you look at line 10 because you have the wrong class in here, right? Then and sometimes there was a little bit of those where there was things that were, they put in the wrong one or something's missing. And I go, can you look at line 10? I think you're missing a class that should be in there. And sometimes what happens is we like to say they forgot to turn on the switch. It's there behind the scenes. Somebody just has to go in there and turn it on, okay? Yeah, but no, it does not confuse students. They don't even see it, right? They're looking more, all the courses in the major. And Jose, here you can see that when something is closed, there's this side arrow, and you open it up and you can see that student already completed calculus here.
That's the circle with the green check.
Yes. And then the next section. So the first section I like to say is the major section. And then right below that, if I had my way, this would be bigger. So the student could make a distinction between GE and major. Maybe that's possible. Maybe we never asked for that. And then once again, see how everything's closed. If it's closed, you have to open it to see how they have completed this requirement.
And if it's closed, it's completed.
Correct. And this is obviously Mesa College students, straight A's, right? So no. And then we look at the areas. Then if an area still needs to be completed, it will say, it's either going to be in progress or it's going to show you the options that you need. So sometimes, like in the counseling, everybody has a different style. You could have the GE sheet right next to it, right? So if the counselor is old school, they could still highlight the sheet at the same time, or you could refer the student to the interactive ed plan so they could select the courses themselves. Okay. I find if we guide our students, they take to this very quickly. Some students don't like it at all. And there was a question yesterday about accessibility. There's also a PDF, but I think they didn't see that it was any better in the PDF. But some of our counselors prefer the PDF because they like the red. See the red there?
Yeah.
So they can see.
Highlight it. I mean, why is this one so long though? There's like 6 pages.
It's probably because, let me see, I think there's a couple plans in there. Okay.
Oh,
Because Mesa likes to waste paper and pages.
See right here, they have 2 plans. So what happens, our biggest problem is counselors do not delete educational plans. So if you think about it, the student could have came in here for studio arts. Okay. Then a counselor added a new plan, biology for transfer, but they should have deleted it. But since they didn't delete it, now you have 2 plans in this long page. Okay.
Okay, Guillermo. But are the counselors supposed to always limit it to 1 though? Because wasn't that a challenge for counselors when they said, well, the student's not sure yet.
Yes. Well, and everybody has a different counseling style, but you don't have to limit it to one. So let's say a certificate. So let's say the student wanted biology for transfer, but also wanted a certificate in art and are actively completing it. As long as they're actively completing these degrees, we had a student once who I don't know if Eileen, you remember, had completed 18 associate's
I
degrees
know,
here with
I
us.
know.
And they were getting the evaluators like, at Mesa College, there's one student who has 18 plans, but they were we kept them in check and said we actually got that student to complete all 18 plans, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they called out the counselor too, which was not right.
Yes, but we were right because it was actually active, right? So those students, that
Mhm.
student was actually actively completing all the plans. But I don't know if you guys had that issue there where, let's say Karina is the chair over there. She does a plan, and then the student comes sees another counselor, and they're going to do a different plan. And then the second counselor says, "Wow, I don't think I should delete Karina's stuff, right?" But
Yeah, we don't delete them. That too.
we delete it. We should remember there's the roles. We
Yeah.
delete it because it's still here in history, right?
That's really good. Yeah. If we delete it, I don't know. I don't know if we can get it back. They say we can, but
Well, see, I think sometimes the delete is more of I'm going to just be because I just can't help myself. It's kind of a paranoia, right?
yeah,
That we made a mistake or I didn't make a mistake. I'm just a CYA.
that's primarily why. Yeah.
Yeah, but I delete. I don't care. I delete and start over. Right?
No one needs to find out where that came from, right? It's a mistake.
Well, the whole thing is that you could find it in different ways, right? But in this ways, we do go back. I try to tell new counselors, if you spend a lot of time looking for somebody where they made a mistake instead of moving forward, we get caught at just pointing fingers versus helping the student move forward. So
Yeah.
then that's our job to go talk to your colleague later. Hey, Cynthia, I saw that you put in physics 125 in here and it should have been physics 125. Right? That's all it takes. It's the professionalism that we have with each other.
Well, oh, yeah, I won't say, sorry.
Any other questions?
Guillermo, are you still requiring all faculty and staff who are being onboarded to go through the training before they have access?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it's like no other places. We do pretty extensive training before we give them security, right? So we go give them training in campus solutions. We give them training on how we approach counseling. They shadow counselors before they engage it, but I'm sure that's the same way, right? So somebody
Is it
over there.
still you?
Pardon me?
Is it still you?
Yes. But it could be anybody, right? So.
Oh no, you've done a really good job. I know I'm always joking with you, but you've done really well. And please don't think this is the last time you're gonna see us.
That's funny.
Guillermo, can I ask you one quick question?
Absolutely.
If you're using, say, assist.org and you want to integrate the courses from another school that's not available, say the course is only offered at Palomar, but they need it, do you include that in this plan as well?
Yes, you would put it under, so I would put down, let's say, I'm going to use English. Let's say we never offer English 101 at Mesa. I would put down English 101 and I would write the note in here that says, take at Miracosta College, take their English 100.
And it would count the units as well when
No.
you do that?
Remember the planner remember,
no substitutions, right?
it's a student tool, right? Or you could write it down here. Mesa does not offer English 101, take at Miracosta College. An example would be, I don't know if you refer a lot of students to San Diego State for cross enrollment or Cal State San Marcos. I would write down, take cross enrollment course at Cal State San Marcos as called EE 101. And then we would attach the cross enrollment form for San Diego State.
Got it. Yeah, that's similar.
Yeah. So in some ways, we well, at least the way I like my perspective is to inform the student. And some counselors say, I want to make sure that I don't make a mistake that they have exactly 60 units and I want to count it, right? But it's not for us, it's for the students. So whatever information we could provide, and you can manipulate these things. Remember, this is the part that, this part here, student educational planner, we created all this whole page, we created it through ERP. This is our customization because we were not going to buy a bolt-on, right? I don't know if they still, I don't think they still call it that, but we weren't going to get another application to.
They call it bolt-on.
They still call it
Or
that?
we still do. We call it. What is ERP?
It's the implementation. It's anything for software implementation. So if you
Enterprise resource.
yes,
Oh,
Got
got it.
yeah. So like if you were in a business major, there's got class in ERP. So anytime any system's transitioning to another one, it's usually just called ERP. All right. What else?
Guillermo, I know you don't have to do this, so thank you.
Thank you. Really, we do appreciate seeing another option.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and I think the next steps is really